one thing that the ATF is authorized to do is disband.
You know, the right to bear arms is because that's the last form of defense against tyranny, not to hunt. It's to protect yourself from the police.
Not only no gun control, but, you know, we're going to destroy the whole concept because the internet's going to serve guns.
And we want our rights, and by God, we're going to keep them, come hell or high water.
The eMilitia Podcast, Episode 65, What is Chillderburg? An After-Action Report, with Jacob Lindsay, Spirit of Resistance, Typo and Sassy's Raiders. Enjoy, fuckers.
Hey guys, BR here. Just a quick little announcement before we start the episode. As many of you know, I was banned once again on Instagram back at the end of April 2021. So far, my attempts to come back via a variety of means have been fruitless. So I figured I'd try something different. I'm overbuilding up a body of infographics, propaganda, and, not gonna lie, pretty epic rants on current events, only to have my following and content wiped again and again. I'll still be present on Twitter, and I'm trying to come back to IG, but my new permanent home that you should always be able to find me at will be my new Substack, The Anarch, so that's anarchist without the ist. This will be a web publication where I flesh out my written rants on news and culture without the bootlicking from an anarchist perspective with a more polished finish. I'm also bringing on contributors to share this new platform. Some familiar faces and some new, so be sure to check that out at theanarch.substack.com. Once again, that's theanarch, anarchist without the ist, .substack.com, and sign up for the free email subscription to stay up to date on what I'm doing over there. And if you want to hear more about that, check out episodes 18 and 19 of my solo podcast, The BR Hates Fed Show. Thanks for listening. Now let's go on with the episode. Hello and welcome to the eMilitia Podcast. I'm BR, and today I'm joined by special guest SOR, aka Spirit Resistance, Typo from Biting the Bullet, Jacob Lindsay, organizer of Chillderburg, and host of both Tasting Anarchy and the Californian in Exile podcast. And hopefully, if he figures out his laptop, we'll also be joined by Sassy's Raiders, formerly of Instagram fame, now trapped on Twitter like myself. But we have lovely company. So welcome to the show, guys.
Welcome.
Welcome.
like almost everyone here is a podcast host, so it's like
It's still
I'm
awkward.
the only libertarian without, or anarchist without a podcast.
Dude, you've talked about it, so that basically counts.
Yeah.
But yeah. Anyway, we want to talk about Chillderburg, the great Texan event. We just got back from Memorial Day weekend, the third of its kind, or third year you guys have run it.
Yep.
So our Instagram community, they're probably seeing us post about it, wondering what it is. I think we only had like a handful of people from the Instagram community come out, and seeing as this year was an absolute riot, and hopefully we can push this thing even bigger. We're gonna try and get it out to those guys. So yeah, Jacob, if you want to give us like kind of an overview of what the event is.
Yeah, I mean it's I guess a little bit hard to describe, but it's just a liberty camping trip basically. It's a good opportunity to meet. Like, I think it's really important to not just be online, to meet people in real life. So it's a good opportunity for you to, come out, enjoy Texas, and meet people that you know online in person. And I think it's a lot of fun. It's been growing, and this year it just kind of blew up, and hopefully it will continue blowing up. But it's we're adding new things to it too. Like this year, we added the first time a music and comedy show, and I thought that went very well. And I think next year we're going to try to do a couple of other just new things, but they're all optional stuff. It's just basically you get a campsite, and you come and hang out with Liberty folks, and meet a lot of cool people, and make a lot of new IRL friendships.
Yeah, that's such a big thing, because in this movement, so many of us, when we first get into it, you can feel very isolated. You've got ideas that just make no sense to basically everyone around you. And so many of us have to resort to the internet and reaching out, being like, is this a thing, or am I just a lunatic? And fortunately, all of us found other lunatics. So we have good company. And but then there is always that step to making it like real life friendships and something palpable.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, and that's that's kind of what I've always sort of been I've been in the liberty movement since 2007-ish, and that's kind of always been my, I wouldn't say sticking point, but just the thing that I recognized needed to happen, mostly because, I felt that way when I first started getting into these ideas and stuff. Was like, I felt very isolated. Nobody in my family really agreed with them. I didn't know anybody who really agreed with them. And kind of the closest thing was like pot smoking Republicans, and
Yep.
like that was like the closest, but even that wasn't really wasn't the same. And then who you met at Chillderburg, I met Mason. I went to a libertarian event. It was a young libertarians meeting, which I was like, okay, well, maybe this is somewhere I can make some friends that are kind of into the same sort of thing. And he and I clicked, and I ended up taking over that meeting and changing it from, Robert's Rules of Orders, boring bullshit, to something where we could launch political activism. But for the most part, it was making friends, hanging out, talking about the ideas, but in more of a, it would be anywhere from discussing Rothbard to, making up fart jokes or something like that. It was a lot more relaxing. And I just felt like that was kind of a better way to build communities. And you could launch political activism from that if that's what you wanted to do. Although I'm kind of, I kind of over the years have become pretty jaded with political activism. But, and then when I moved to Texas, I kind of recognized the same thing. I'm moving to a new place. I want to have friends. Libertarians in general are pretty fun people, even if they're kind of dicks online sometimes. In real life, they're a lot of fun. They're also really interesting. A lot of talent. Actually, I saw Typo. I was reading your something on your Twitter, Typo, that you throw axes, and I was like, oh, that's super cool.
Yeah.
And like things like that, it's just neat. Like people, like the guys who, or like you guys who are like really into guns and stuff like that. You can break down guns, or the 3D printing of guns, or all the people who know about Bitcoin. Just so much talent, so much interesting stuff. Like you never run out of fun things to talk about. And when you're online, you spend so much time arguing that a lot of times that gets lost. But when you are hanging out in person, you're a little bit more less likely to like come off as like sort of that autistic libertarian where you don't understand like other people have feelings and stuff like that. In person, people are not really like that. Sometimes they are, but for the most part, it's not as bad. And so I did that here in Dallas too. Like we started just doing a monthly Liberty meetup at a brewery and made a bunch of friends out here too. And then that's kind of, I'd already kind of had the Chillderburg idea in my head because when I lived in Virginia, I knew I was moving to Texas. So I started like Twitter stalking people that I knew lived in Texas that were part of the Liberty community. And one of them was Car Camp It, who's now TLE Car on Twitter instead of Car Camp It. And actually I pulled the tweet up right as we started this. It was on October 13th, 2017. And he posted, thinking about hosting Chillderburg 18 next year in direct response to Bilderberg. Probably drink a lot of beer alone in my apartment. And that was all the tweet, but I thought it was funny. And it got 1 retweet and 8 likes. And, but it just stuck with me that the name Chillderburg, I was like, and I remember I was just laying on our couch and my wife hears me go like, ha, and she goes, what? And I go, oh, this guy Kari's funny. He made this joke. And I immediately texted Mason and was like, dude, we got to do this. I think this will work. And we could make it like a real chill Burning Man kind of thing where like people will just, you kind of get the grounds, you get everything set up so that people can kind of be free to do what they want to do. And then you just sort of let it go. And that's what we've done. And it's working out so far. So that's good.
Seriously. No, it worked out an absolute treat. It was the most peaceful riot I have ever been in attendance for. It was just, there was Woodstock shenanigans. There was people grilling all over the place, multiple campsite with ordinary people in between us. God bless them.
Yeah.
And and not one issue from my understanding. You being the organizer, anything crop up?
The ranger came and talked to us once or twice. Mostly it was there's certain rules that I didn't realize that we were supposed to be following. If you have more than 20 people camping in like some sort of organized sense, you're supposed to get a land use permit, which I didn't do. And, but also we've always been over that capacity. So I don't know. I'm not really sure why it never came up before. But so that was one thing, and then also the other thing that a lot of people or that the campground complained about was we had too many cars in one camping area, which once we spread them out, they didn't care. But it was for some reason like having a lot of cars parked in one spot they didn't like. So
that is,
yeah.
So just those two things, that have to be, those have to be some of the most like on-brand complaints about anarchists I've heard as of recent. It's like you're parking wrong and you should have got a permit. Like, yeah, probably.
Yeah, I mean the thing is, and like I looked into it. What's funny because now I already am we hit the ground running for Chillderburg 4 or Veer as we're calling it because each year is a different language number. I think actually Bird came up with that idea and we ran with that as well. But the land use permit thing is actually kind of helpful. I went. There's nothing on the website about it, which made it kind of annoying. So I had to like call people, and I spoke to like 3 or 4 people. None of them knew what I was talking about. And I was like, well, the ranger told me I had to do this, and they're like, I don't know anything about that. And I was like, well, can you transfer me to somebody who might? And finally, I got somebody who's actually been very helpful. And it's kind of nice because there's a maximum number of camping spaces one person can rent. And so what I was doing is I would rent my maximum. I would get my wife to rent her maximum. We'd get Mason to rent his maximum. We'd get Carr to rent his maximum. And that way we'd have enough campsites for everybody. But if you do it with this land use permit and run it as an event, it doesn't have to be under my name, which is nice. And Chillderburg is a registered company. So it's Chillderburg LLC. So I can rent them all under Chillderburg LLC, which gives me a tax advantage. And then,
nice.
It also makes it so all of the signs say Chillderburg instead of saying Lindsay, and which is also helpful because my name's not on Twitter. I'm not private with my name, but like it's not on there. So if people are driving around and they don't know who I am, then they go, oh well, this campsite's reserved for Lindsay. So that makes it a little bit more confusing. And then the other cool thing is I can get all of the campsites. So there won't be anybody else there. It'll just be Chillderburg next year because I can have that entire loop. And so it's like that'll be enough campsites for about 200 people to sleep overnight, all of the nights. So
easily. And I mean, that's something we have to get into before we go any further. It's just how beautiful the campgrounds are.
Yeah.
Like, when I heard that was this big event down in Texas, I was like, I've been to Texas multiple times. It's always been like, don't get me wrong, I like the attitude, but it's always been dust and city and not much else for hours.
Right. yeah. Hill country is a little bit different. It's not what people think about in Texas. Usually they think about West Texas or Dallas or Houston or somewhere like that. It's not, but most of Texas is pretty green. It's and hill country in particular, I think is really nice. And that's where this was. And hill country is, Texas is a big state. So hill country is about the size of West Virginia.
Yeah.
And so it's real big but it's just not what people think about when they think about Texas usually. And, but it's pretty, it's very green and not terribly humid. I mean, more humid than like California, probably way more humid than Arizona.
Oh yeah. But, it did well on us.
yeah. Yeah. But as far compared to like, the rest of the South, it's not bad. And, it's just a pretty place and it's, the water's nice and it's, just, a nice time of year to be outside if it doesn't rain, which, is always a risk that time of year here, but it's sort of one of those catch-22s. I put it on this weekend because it's really kind of the last part of the year where it's bearable to be outside, because it gets up into the hundreds pretty soon. Today it was like 90 something where I live. And then, so if you wait a little bit too long, it's just way too hot. Cause we did the first Chillderburg in middle of June, and it was just too hot. And then if you do it too early, then it's just raining all the time. So it's in that area where, there is a rain risk, but for the most part, it was not too bad this year. We had, the rain on Friday, which is really the day before Chillderburg. And then we had just that one, 15 or 20 minutes or whatever of rain on, I think it was Saturday night.
Yeah, and that was the good bonding experience. I think it was Saturday night. It was earlier in the evening because it was still daylight. It was like kind of when it was starting to get dim. Yeah. There was a big camp with Carbird and a bunch of the podcasting group stuck under one little like tarple. But playing some Rush. It was good bonding exercise. We made it.
Well, we're gonna do it next year. We're gonna plan better for the possibility of rain. I'm gonna get those like really large. Well, provided that they're gonna let me do it. Because I have like a huge list of requests for the camp, because now that we're actually doing this as an event, we actually have, they're going to let us do things that normal campers can't do. Like one of them is put up big pavilions, so we can put up like large, 20 by 30 tents, and they're pretty cheap to rent. And
so this is turning into Burning Man.
Yeah, I mean, people can go inside. They can go in the tent. It's really just because of rain. That I would prefer, instead of everybody running into cars or trying to like crowd around one little tarp, I would like them to still be able to hang out and chill and like do what they're doing. Just do it underneath a large tent.
Yeah, have a nice central hub or something.
Yeah. So I think that's what we're gonna do next year, is get two or three of those big tents, and then. Although we're still talking about it in the I've also expanded the planning committee a little bit, because I think it's gotten a little bit bigger than just like some dude doing it on his computer at home. It's got like, I need a little bit more help. So now we've got some other people who are going to help out with it. And also there's a lot of things that people wanted to do that I wasn't really interested in planning, but I would like those things to happen. So I was like, look, if you want to do it, you do it. And I'm happy to promote it. I'm happy to have it happen, but like, I'll focus on getting the campsites and making sure that the comedy and music happens. And then whatever else happens, that could be on everybody else.
That was one of the really cool things about this whole event, because, like you said, you organize campsites, you organize entertainment, partnered with Iron Wolf Distillery. And then it was like, whatever you want to do, if you want to come along for the things, do that. If you want to hang out, do that. But so many other people brought their own thing. I mean, of course, you had Agora Brewing, and then Cooktown Shanty with the Fat Conkins and all the other food that they were prepping.
Yeah, and I don't know if I doxed him or not, but Agora, he volunteered to do that last year, and it was just a cool thing. And then he did it again this year, and that was a lot of fun. This year, Cooktown Shanty, they volunteered to do that also, and they were like, "Hey, is that okay if we do it?" And I was like, anything anybody wants to do is okay with me. So, and then that turned out just to be really cool. And I think it also a little bit better for a lot of people who are not really used to camping outdoors and cooking outside and stuff like that. Having some sort of like source of food, like reliable source of food, makes more sense. Like I've been, camped my entire life. I'm okay with like eating tuna out of a can or cooking some hot dogs or something like that. But I know a lot of people who don't camp, like that's it's more, they don't understand the food aspect of it. And just having somebody there to provide food makes that portion a lot easier.
Oh, seriously. Yeah. I think we all had different levels of preparation for food. Like I usually prepare for like a rough weekend wherever. If I'm going camping, I'm like, all right, I've got dehydrated stuff and like, a boiler thing, and that's my lot. And if there's more food, great. But I didn't crack a single one of those packets, because there was always some kind of meal you could contribute to, or that other people were offering up.
Yeah, that's what's also cool about it, is that everybody brings more than enough of the amount of beer I came back with is ridiculous. And so like there's just tons of stuff available, and not that that's saying don't bring stuff for people who are attending in the future, but it's really kind of cool to see sort of this like anarchy in action kind of thing, where like just people figure it out. It's not, doesn't have to be, I don't have to be the central planner being like, you bring 10 hot dogs and you bring 20 hamburgers or whatever. It's just people figure it out. And it's close enough to a town that if somebody really needed to, they could just run into town and get something. But there was more than enough of everything. And I thought that was really cool.
Yeah. It was, I think Tommy Salmon said it. He was like, "Where has anarchy worked? Chillderburg."
Yeah.
Everyone just helping each other out. Like, oh, your tent fell down. I got some extra poles. Oh, need some extra food. Need some water. Need whatever it was. People were more than happy to help each other out. Brand new people they're meeting and making friends with. They're just helping each other get situated and just walking campfire to campfire. Sharing who they are, what they do. It was it was something else. And something we were talking about this before we started, but it's the kind of event this community really needs, because it's not all sanitized and clipboards and organization, which is strange, but that's, you know, how a lot of these LP meetups are, and things of that nature, where there's going to be political action planned at some point. This is something I think we all desperately need to be like, all right, put down your phone, put down whatever it is you do, whether it's, you know, party stuff, agora stuff, whatever it might be, and just come and rub shoulders.
Right. Yeah. I think that's a good way to put it. And I think that's, yeah, I think it's a lot of people do need to unplug for a little while. And I think that is what Chillderburg provides.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, how many of you guys, SOR, Typo, Sassy, how many of you guys expected to meet a Scot who knew about UBI?
I was just surprised with all the people I've listened to on different podcasts and everything, meeting them and how chill everyone was. Like, I can't remember if we said this earlier or not. It wasn't just a bunch of preaching and talking about theory. It was hanging out. I feel like I talked less about anarcho theory there than I do with my normie friends and family. So it was a nice break.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely, for sure. Like, I thought it was going to be all talking about like libertarian shit all weekend. That's kind of what I expected, because that's what libertarians do.
Yep.
But when we all started hanging out, like, I think I talked more about my personal life and learning about other people's personal life more than I cared about like where they came from in liberty or whatever. Yeah. And that's I don't know. I like that. I like the actually like getting to know people, and like instead of just like whatever they, you know, shit post on Twitter, you can actually be like, oh, that person's actually really cool.
Yeah.
They're not just a shit poster. They actually, you know, make really cool hot sauce with THC. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. I think that's really, I think, kind of what, as much as like I'm into the theory and all the libertarian stuff, is that's not really what life's about. Life's about friendships and relationships, not about you know, somebody's latest take on Konkin or whatever. It's just about, it's more about the fat Konkins, less about fat Konkin. So yes, it's just, I think it's just a better, it's good to do that in life. It's kind of what I grew up with. I always feel like I'm trying to like recreate things that I thought were good from when I was younger. And I think that's kind of what I was trying to recreate here. Is I grew up with a family camp every year. As we would go, and we didn't have the unifying like political ideology or anything like that. It was the unifying force or whatever. And that was our religion. But we would show up to that. But really there wasn't a lot of religious stuff. It was just people having fun camping. And so a lot of that stuff doesn't matter as much as having an opportunity to spend time together and develop relationships. And you can develop relationships online. It's just more difficult than doing it in person.
Yeah, 100%. There was this. Like, oh, sorry, Tyler.
I was just saying, like, it's really like building a culture, and it's like really cool to like watch and like actually have like a place for like people that literally straight up identify themselves as anarchists, where they can go camping in the woods with a bunch of other people that think like them and get to hang out. And I think it's really cool because a lot of times we don't have events like this. I mean, I know there's a lot up in like the East Coast and more north, but out here in the Southwest, there really isn't too many different events for us. Then it's really cool. You're able to like, and it's like in the middle of Texas, and you know, and especially this year, I think everyone was kind of excited to at least go visit Texas because it's kind of been a little bit more free than other places.
Yeah, it has. Well, I mean, we did it. I mean, in at Chillderburg Dose, you know, we got really wrecked by COVID as far as like attendance and stuff. We had about 100 people signed up, but only about 35 or 40 were able to make it, just because it was such a pain in the butt. But I thought it was really important to. By that time, like, it was still a little bit up in the air of whether or not this was like a real thing. But I was also like, no, this seems like bullshit to me. I'm going to do it anyways. And I feel like I was vindicated, but I mean, it was far enough into it that I was like, no, it's pretty clear that this is bullshit. Yeah. So, but you know, there was a lot of people that it wasn't that they were afraid to go. It was that it was really hard to travel. A lot of people that were coming out, like there's a couple people who wanted to come out from California. They didn't know if they'd be able to get back into California because California was talking about closing their borders, which isn't, just as far like logistically is stupid. But Robbie was supposed to come and do comedy last year, but once the numbers just kind of like dropped, he said he's going to have a hard time making it. And I said, don't worry about it. Like we're not going to have that many people. But it turned out to be a blessing in disguise because we ended up finding Muleshoe Bend, which was I had 2 backup locations, both of which canceled. So the primary location canceled, then my 2 backups canceled. And so I was kind of like scrambling. And the only place that was open was, the people who own these is the Lower Colorado River Authority, which is not under the jurisdiction of Texas. It's kind of federal. I'm not really entirely sure what it's something, I think it's left over from like the FDR administration when he made all these like damming authorities. And they have authority over all of these parks. And, I called them and they were like, well, we haven't gotten orders from the federal government to shut down, so we're not going to. But Texas was closing. And so all of the local and county parks had closed. It was just this one was open, but it was cool. We found this one. And then we also found the distillery, which ended up being a cool place. And this was a little bit of a better location than Chillderburg 1. The Chillderburg 1 location was maybe another 40 minutes or so away from Austin. And it was at Black Rock Park, I think was what it was called. It was on, although I've been told by native Texans that I'm pronouncing the name wrong, but it's spelled Buchanan, but I think the way that you're supposed to pronounce it is Buchanan or something like that. But clearly I'm not from Texas because I don't know how to pronounce it. And anyways, that one was a little bit further away, but I think like the location ended up being really cool because it's far enough outside of Austin that you don't have to deal with Austin stuff. But it's close enough to Austin that's easy for you to fly into either Austin or into San Antonio. For people that live in Houston or Dallas, it's only a 3-hour drive. So I think it's a good central location. I picked this general area because it was close to 4 major metroplexes, and there's enough libertarians and anarchists and agorists and stuff like that in Texas that it makes it a good area. And this year, I couldn't believe how many people flew in. Like that was incredible, which is really cool.
That's what took me away about this year. It seems. Do you think there was kind of a knock-on effect where so many people last year who maybe wanted to fly in, because they love this community but couldn't? You think there was that FOMO and a year of missing out and wanting to come that kind of made this year blow up? So much?
I think it was. I think it was also like. I think that a lot of people were like, this must be the breakout year. And as that sort of started to roll, like a lot of people started like going, oh, I want to go. And they came in. It was fun, super fun the first 2 years. I think it's just kind of the ball started rolling. And, when you get 30 people the first year saying it was fun. And then about 40 people the second year saying it was fun. And then this year, people also kind of being antsy because they've been stuck wherever they live for so long, and flights are pretty cheap right now. So it's just a lot of stuff kind of lined up, and people didn't want to miss it.
Yeah. I'm so glad so many people made it that and we're all over the place, the entire country, and to see people travel from all over just to hang out with, a small group of like-minded people was really something. And to see, like we've been talking about, so many different communities, so many, like you were saying, the crypto guys, gun guys, the agorists, Mises Caucus people, just whatever, putting all that aside and just chilling with liberty people.
Yeah,
it's cool that it's blown up because next year you guys were already estimating it could be like 300 people.
I think that would be. At least for this show, I would think that would be probably a pretty good estimate. My wife keeps wanting to say it's going to be 400. I don't know if that's realistic or not. We're planning for enough space for a little more than 200 people to camp.
Yeah.
And then I think maybe to make it a little bit easier, there are a lot of people who are not campers. We're going to try to maybe get a nearby Airbnb that people can share, so that people who want to sleep in a bed and in an air conditioned place, that might work better for them. Because Victoria, my wife, she slept in the hotel. She didn't camp with us, and she's just not a camper. And there's a lot of people who want to come. They enjoy hanging out there during the day, but they don't want to sleep on the ground in a tent. So I think
people have like kids and stuff too.
Yeah. That was cool too. There was a lot more kids there this year than in previous years. I think Chillderburg 1, there was one kid, and I don't think there was any last year. Maybe there's 2 kids, Chillderburg 1. Maybe there was 1 kid last year. I don't remember, but that was cool. And I think that's also something I'm kind of excited about. Is I don't have any kids yet, but we'll have kids in a couple of years. I would like them to make friends that are from liberty-oriented families, people who believe in things like homeschool. And I was homeschooled growing up, and it's that could be a really kind of cool community as well. Is people who are homeschooled, people who have sort of are taught independent type lifestyle skills, makes it. And people who are not taught to like one thing that I always thought was really interesting about kids, they always say that like kids that are homeschooled are like socially awkward, which can be true, but it's not, that's not how I ever described it. But then again, like I'm very biased. It's to me, it's not that they're awkward. It's that they don't treat adults like somebody to be afraid of. They treat adults like somebody to interact with and learn from. So like people, there's not this like weird like age segregation that a lot of public school kids get, I think. And where like, oh, you're in 4th grade and I'm in 3rd grade, so for some reason we can't be friends. Where it's like, no, like when you're in homeschool, a lot of times you do activities with other homeschoolers, but it's a very wide range of people. And you're not taught to be like, if some adult tells you to do something, you do it. You're taught like how to interact with them as a person, not as a authority figure. And I think that's kind of what people perceive as being weird. And so like, as this grows and people bring their kids and stuff like that, I'd like to have more activities and things available for kids so that they can kind of interact with people that are like that, not people that are, afraid of the adults, which is kind of how I perceive public school. Is like, that's what they're kind of teaching you, is to be afraid of somebody who's older than you. But they may, it's not respect driven. It's more like age driven, which is weird.
I mean, I'll weigh in on this just because that's my background. It's also laziness from people that work with kids. They just want kids to listen to them. I mean, my staff, I'd always say, if I ever catch you saying, you need to do this because I said so, be gone. It's not even a respect thing. It's just teachers being lazy and not wanting to have to explain themselves to kids.
Yeah. And I like it when that, we are a growing community, and I would like kids to be able to interact with other kids who have at least some sort of similar, lifestyle. And it's a good way to make friends. It's a good, you can also be pen pals or whatever, and, write each other letters or whatever. And like, I had pen pals growing up. That was fun. So although there was internet, we got internet in 92, but, it was different then. So I don't know. These are like other thoughts that I keep having where I'm like,
like I noticed that too, because me and my girlfriend, we talk about having kids in a few years time, and and so she wants to come down next year, and I noticed someone's little girl, she was talking to some of the adults, and some of the adults had been like swearing around her, and they were like, "Oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't even notice your kid was there," perfectly respectable, and they're like, "Oh no, she like." And I don't want to say whose kid it was exactly, but they were like, "Oh, no, she like hears adults swearing, and we've taught her it's not okay words or whatever, but she generally gets more upset when she swears herself instead of like when other people are around her." And she was like, I guess primary or middle school age, but so ahead of any of those kids I've seen like in public school. She was so intelligent, talking to adults, like one-on-one, not as a child talking to an adult like you were saying. That was perfectly respectful, but she just wanted to learn. And I was like, wow, if that's what homeschooling does, and what parents in our community, parents who are at this thing with us, if that's what they can do, that gives me a lot of hope, because I personally don't have experience with homeschooling, like in any kind of connection, but I do believe in it from what I've seen, and that really, really nailed it home. She was just so eager to learn from the adults and to listen in and to know, you know, what was appropriate as her parents had taught her, and very, very reasonable stuff, you know, like, don't repeat what the adults are saying, like the swears and stuff, but like they're not, you know, it's not the end of the world.
Right.
And yeah, I was like, it would be cool to see this thing grow and mature with the community, because, you know, it's a mixed bag. We had all sorts of ages there, but as people start to bring their families and stuff, we get more comfortable around the internet strangers, and this thing, these, you know, relationships grow. It would be so cool to see, you know, what people do with that.
Yeah, I think it will be. And I know that this is just going to be the way that things end up working for me. Is that I'll have kids probably in the next 3 or 4 years, and Mason's already got a daughter, and he'd like to bring her and stuff like that. So as my life changes, I'm probably going to want to, you know, make this work for people who have that similar lifestyle, but still maintain what is fun now.
Oh yeah.
But it's fun for everybody. Not every, like, you know, there, like we talk about this online all the time. There was a lot of drinking and other recreational substances.
Woodstock stuff.
Yeah, Woodstock stuff. Yeah, but not everybody, like, you met Orthazar while you were there, or Orthazar?
I probably did. It was so difficult juggling, you know, online names and real names. Yeah. And
okay, well, he doesn't imbibe in anything. He doesn't drink, doesn't do any drugs or whatever. And there's a couple people who are same thing. That's just not that's not what they're interested in. But they still get along with everybody. They still have an awesome time. They just have a different, like, again, everybody's got their own vibe. Every little camp area has got its own vibe. And if you're not happy with one, you just kind of move to a different one, and that works out, or you start your own, you know, and that was what was really cool about it. I mean, it was just people kind of, they clustered around what they were interested in. They went from site to site and just saw what was going on. We had, like, the Facebook people had their own little area, and, you know, people would show up and go hang out with them and meet them. And then we had, like, the Scott Horton area, which, by the way, was not a campsite. So, like, he just,
they were more anarchists than anyone. They were just like, we're just gonna pull up and set up here.
Yeah. He's just like, oh, set up right here in front of somebody else's camp. That was what was funny about it. Is, like, as I was walking around, I was like, yeah, these are not our spaces, but people are just setting up wherever. And I was like, well, if nobody's complaining, then that's fine.
Yeah, we pulled up, and I think we set up in kind of an interesting spot too. And then what was funniest was, I thought we were absolutely in the middle of, like, our designated campground, and so my dumbass, I fly the black flag.
Oh yeah. Well, that's fine.
no one said shit. But and then so we arrived, I think, before Scott Horton's camp did, and then, like, it was late the first night, and we'd had a 14.5-hour drive from Arizona straight. We left, like, Friday evening, drove through SOR drove through the night. I drove for like an hour and a half, and Typo slept. And and by the time we got there, we were fucking exhausted. And
yeah,
we were some of the first to drop Saturday night. And so I was falling asleep, and I just heard, like, Scott Horton going on a beautiful rant. No idea about what, but he was passionate about something. And there was, like, a crowd of people around him at their campsite. I was like, that's Scott Horton. He's, like, the next campsite over. And I hadn't seen him yet. I was just like, huh. But I was so exhausted, I just sat there in my bed like, I'll go and say hi tomorrow. Which, the freedom of this event to just, like, know that these people are going to be around, and people just going campsite to campsite saying hi, you know, introducing themselves and whatever.
Yeah, I think it's really, it's a lot of fun. It's also, there's also a lot of people in our community where, shy, I guess, is the best way to describe it. They just are not particularly outgoing people. That's one of the reasons why they're online as much as they are. And same thing for me. Like, I'm not the most outgoing person ever, but when I'm there, I feel very much in my element.
Yeah.
And I think that is very helpful to a lot of people to make friends if they sort of have a hard time with it in their regular life, or if they're just kind of quiet people or whatever. Everybody's so welcoming. Everybody's so happy to just meet other people and talk and bullshit and, you know, play cornhole or volleyball or bocce or whatever, drink beers, do whatever they want to do. And it just provides a really good environment for people to kind of come out of their shell and just hang out and do things that is good for humans to do.
Oh yeah. Like, I mean, you've been talking about Chillderburg Town and intentional communities on California in Exile for a little bit now, but I had this this beautiful moment walking back from, I guess, like kind of Bird and Car's camp right at the end around the bend, and I was walking back to our place. And I walked past Typo, you, Car, and a few others were playing volleyball, and I was like, just seeing Car always talk about, posting about volleyball and shit, and then to see it in reality, you guys all doing your thing, I was like, wow, Chillderburg town.
Yeah.
Chillderburg town is here.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the next step, I think, is to figure out how to, my wife set a date for it. So 07/27/2027. That's when we're planning to, at least her and I, move to Chillderburg town.
I like it. Lucky sevens.
Yep, that was the idea.
Yeah, we were we were blown away by, at least I was blown away by Texas on our way in. Just coming through all the greenery, but also our drive in after the body armor incident, which I guess we can go into in a second. But let's not just do this chronologically. Let's make it nice and confusing. But so as we were rolling, I guess it was early Saturday morning into Chillderburg. Must have been maybe 4 to 6 a.m. sometime around there. And we rolled into this tiny little town. We were completely out of gas, fuel light on. Hadn't seen a gas station for like 2 hours.
Oh yeah.
And that bloody storm that knocked out Texas had taken out this little town's power, so they couldn't even give us fuel. And so we're like, okay, we're boned. We're putting out a message on Twitter like, hey, anyone in this, tiny town in the middle of nowhere? anyone a fan? So we were looking around for fuel. So where'd you find the Good Samaritan?
There was a donut shop next to the gas station, and I just went in there and like, anyone have a gallon of gas? I will give you $40. And this dude offered to help us out. Really chill dude.
Yeah, people are pretty. At least I've found this is just, you especially if you live in a city, you don't really notice that people are willing to help. But generally speaking, people are just willing to, help out if they can. It's fun. It's also fun to help out. Like I went to help some dude catch his dog in the neighborhood the other day. It was fun. Like people will do it because if they don't have anything else to do, it's fun to help it. It makes you feel good. And it's just it's the right thing to do if you, That's why I like kind of rural areas a lot, is people are like that.
Yeah, it's a completely different kind of interaction. Like if you walk up to someone in a busy city parking lot and you're like, hey man, can you give me like $5? I need help with my fuel. Or even if you're like, I will give you $40 for a gallon of fuel, they'll look at you like you're trying to scam me. Fuck off and die.
Right.
but this guy, I'll give you $40 for a gallon of fuel. Oh yeah, follow me in my truck, and if you guys don't make it, I'll drive some fuel back to you. Drove us to his little ranch. He had some gravity-fed fuel tank. Gave us half a tank, and we were like, what do we owe you? Said, just pass. What did he say? Just pay it on, pay it forward.
Yeah, just pay it forward. Do something nice for someone else.
Yep.
Yeah.
I was like, holy shit, maybe I need to move to Texas.
Yeah, I think it's a rural thing. Texas does have a lot of that, but even like where I grew up in Northern California, people were like that. I think it's more of a rural thing.
Yeah, I grew up in a small community, and that's how it was. But I've been so contaminated by the city so long that when we were going to this guy's ranch, I was like, this guy's gonna fucking murder us.
Yeah,
like that's what I was thinking.
I think we all had our hands on our pistols.
They were within reaching distance. My hand wasn't on it. I was starting to get into the Texan vibe,
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I come from rural England, and people aren't that nice. I was like, Jesus Christ, this place is quite something. Just the friendliness and the vibe of the place. I don't know, Sassy, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Like quiet for like 42 minutes, but you're in Texas now, right? You're like a Texan man.
Yeah, kind of.
You're not a Texan native though, are you?
No, I'm from California as well.
Oh damn! Everyone's running away. Everyone's a refugee.
Political refugee.
That's why I'm in exile.
Yeah, I love it. Where was I going with that? So Chillderburg town. I mean, how's did you talk about that much at Chillderburg 3?
Not as much as we kind of birthed the idea at Chillderburg Dose around the campfire, where, well, kind of my wife and I had been talking about something like it for a couple of years, because, like, you know, she's from Ukraine, so I don't remember how it came up one time, but she was like, "I wish we could just live around like sane people," and I was like, "Well, let's just start our own town." And she's like, "You can do that?" I was like, "Yeah, why not? Like, how do towns get started? Somebody has to start them, right?" So that's kind of, and then we sort of brought it up again at Chillderburg Dose, and so many people were like, "Oh my gosh, yes, I would love that." And at this point, so many people work remotely anyways. Like, my wife and I both work from home. I can really live anywhere. Once in a while I have to go into Dallas, but like maybe twice a year or something like that. Damn. And so it's not, we don't have to do it very often. And so a lot of people can operate that way. And then there's other people who, they have business ideas that they want to start, and it doesn't really involve them being near, well, maybe it involves them being near a city, but it doesn't involve them being in a city. So, you know, somewhere like in Hill Country would be a good place if we can get a couple hundred acres, and just, it would, you know, be dual purpose. It'd be for the future Chillderburgs, and then just people as they want to can just come out and buy a portion of it, and we'll help them get started. I've got, you know, you can hear my longer rants on this on the intentional community stuff that we do on, California in Exile, but like, I have ideas of how it could work or how it might work, but I'm really open to it just working. So, and then we'll put a white paper together, and if people don't want to live in Texas, they can start it wherever they live.
I love it. And yeah, I won't ramble about it too much because we're talking about the event. I did drag you down into that rabbit hole because I am obsessed with this idea too, and yeah. I do think it's, I think it's the future. I think cities are going to become graveyards, yes, or relics of the past. If I want to be a little bit less dark, but yeah. I mean, what's to hate? Sustainable living, actual community once again. You know, knowing your neighbors. And building a living situation with purpose instead of being stacked on top of each other in boxes and not knowing your neighbor and calling the cops over, you know, noise complaints and ridiculous stuff like that.
Yeah. And there's not really, you know, I think maybe I grew up in, at least I always think about it this way, is that like, it was kind of the last of the sort of small town vibe. I'm sure there are still a lot of small towns and stuff like that, but we knew everybody in the town. There's, well, probably not everybody. I think there was about 2,000 people in the town at the time, but we knew pretty much everybody. Anytime we went to the grocery store, we would sit there and talk to somebody for like an hour and a half. And, you know, my grandpa was kind of, I wouldn't say he's a founder of the town, but he kind of started a lot of the youth activities there, like the swim team and the wrestling team and the soccer team, and coached baseball, and, you know, did stuff with the church and all that kind of stuff. So like, we just knew everybody because we were very involved in the community. And that's kind of, the town's not like that anymore. I mean, it went from when I was a kid of about 2,000 people to about 40,000 people now. And it's just, you can't know everybody anymore. Like, it just doesn't work out that way. And I think there's something about like human sanity that needs to have a tight knit community where, and as it grows, people get more and more unreasonable. It seems like it's also, I think the government kind of pushes this on you to basically remove your own responsibility. If you have a noise complaint with your neighbor, it's your responsibility to go talk it out with them, not call the cops.
Yeah.
But because they socialize all of that, it just gets, you become more and more atomized. And, you know, instead of taking individual responsibility, you just give that to some bureaucrat somewhere, and they deal with it instead. And it causes bad blood. Like, nothing ruins a neighborhood more than having a busybody who's always calling the cops. It makes everybody suspicious. It makes everybody dislike each other, because once it's done to you, then you feel like you should be doing it to somebody else. So kind of like your oil guy, the guy gave you gas, you know, you pay forward bad deeds as well as paying forward good deeds. And calling, you know, a noise complaint on somebody is a bad deed, and that gets paid forward too, whether people, you know, think about it or not.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I feel like what you're doing with this is kind of rebuilding community, because you're not saying like, well, your plan so far hasn't been buy a chunk of land, invite a bunch of libertarians onto it. It's like, no, we got an event, we can kind of put this stuff, not necessarily that was a plan to put it into practice, but naturally, it's like, oh, these people actually work pretty damn well, next to each other. And not only do I not mind putting my tent next to theirs, I wouldn't mind putting my house next to theirs or down the road,
Right, exactly. Yeah, I think that's what people discover. I think it's almost I think it's a sickness of our society is that people don't have community anymore. There's something wrong. And I think lots of people realize that, even people out of the Liberty community just realize there's something wrong, and I think this year has really amplified it a lot with everybody just leaving the cities. Like, even people who are not really like Tim Pool's been talking about this. Like, leftists talk about this now. They're just like, get out of the city. Something is wrong.
Yeah.
They don't necessarily know what it is, but they know that there's a sickness in our culture, and the remedy, I think, is to choose who your neighbors are.
Yeah. Like, what a crazy concept. Live with people you like. Live with people who you can build something with.
Yeah.
Something I skipped over earlier when we were talking about the event was the entertainment.
Oh yeah.
So this was the first time you had a proper music and comedy show, right?
Yep. This is the first one I've ever done, so it was pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah, it came together pretty seamlessly. And how was it partnering with Iron Wolf Distillery, right?
That was a little bit complicated, mostly because I didn't know what I was doing and they didn't know what to expect.
Yeah.
So Glenda, who's I think she's married, but she's also part owner. I think her and her husband, own it together. I don't know for sure that they're married, but I think they are. And so I was talking with her, and I talked to her on the phone a lot, and she was very agreeable to it. From their standpoint, this is excellent because they don't have to book a musical act, and they got a bunch of people coming in. But I told her that we were going to have 80 people, and we ended up having close to 200 people show up to it. So they were very happy with the number of people that showed up and were buying drinks and things like that. This to me was weird, but it's also, I guess I just think about alcohol differently than they do because it's their business. They were very, very adamant that this was a family venue.
Oh,
and that I couldn't do comedy while it was open. That's why the comedy couldn't start till 8. But they were happy to stay open late, as long as people were buying stuff. But like when they told me that, like there was some sort of miscommunication. I thought that she meant that that we could start comedy at like 6. So the show ended up being way longer than my original intent. My original intent was that we would do music for 3 hours, and then around 6 or so, or 6:30, we would do comedy, and then we'd be going back to the campsites around 8 when they close. And that's not how it worked out, but I think it worked out really well. And actually, what was cool about it is I only actually booked 2 acts, or 3 acts, I guess. I booked who did I book? I booked Robbie, I booked Nikki P, and I booked Owen Glass. And everybody else who performed sort of invited themselves, which was really cool. So like just once it was kind of like open and people were like, oh, I'd like to come down. Oh no, Brian I asked to come to, the comedian Brian Breckenridge, because I saw him open here in Fort Worth for Shane Gillis, and I just thought he was really funny. So I was like, well, we're doing this. And he had certain jokes in his routine. He did actually a lot more kind of conspiracy liberty oriented stuff for us than he did at his other joke. But there was something about his jokes that I was like, I think this guy is like either a conspiracy guy or a libertarian guy. And when I was talking to him after the show, it turned out he listens to Tom Woods and is a big Ron Paul supporter. And I was like, oh, you're perfect. Let's get you down there. And he was like, oh, awesome. That'll be awesome. And so then same thing, Quasi, who was great. He also just kind of reached out and was like, hey, I hear you're doing like a Liberty event. I'm a libertarian. I live in Los Angeles. Can I come out and play? And I was like, yeah, if you can get out to Texas, yes. Damn. And he was excellent. And then Robbie brought Kyle with him. And then Luke, who had a couple of kids with him, he was at the very farthest campsite. He had his kids. He actually just messaged me and was like, hey, I got my friend Micah who would like to do some stand-up. Can he do stand-up? And I was like, yeah, sure. The more the merrier. So it all kind of just planned itself, which was awesome. I did a couple of them, but for the most part, it was pretty easy.
Damn. That's wonderful. I mean, it was nice to get a real sampling of what this community has to offer in terms of entertainment, and to have a venue that was like, I hate using words like this, but very safe for them. You know, like we're all there to support them, and we all love what they do. So no one's gonna call them out for a particularly spicy joke or something that hurts someone's feelings about their politics.
No, and I think that's one thing that's really nice about like Liberty Comedy is that they don't have to be careful. They can say or do whatever they want. Somebody might be offended, but we're it's a Liberty community. It doesn't matter. Like it's you'll win them back on the next joke. They won't write to the editor or whatever and be like, I am very offended and I'm never going to go to this again. It's people, they'll just we've got thick skin. It doesn't really matter. The joke lands or it doesn't land. It doesn't really matter what the topic is.
Yeah, the risk is more just people not getting the reference from a particular piece of theory or something. It's like, oh, I thought you guys would have got that. Okay, moving on.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it was good. But what was also really cool about it is after the show, I didn't realize how many like talented people there were that were just in attendance, and so we may end up doing something next year where people get a chance to, get up and do their couple of minutes of stand up that they have prepared. Like Anthony has like 5 or 10 minutes of stand up that he used to do when he lived in Scotland, and I would love to see what that is. He's a funny guy, so I imagine it's good, but like I'd just be curious. So I think we'll try to do something like that.
You have to have someone on stage to translate for him. The Scottish dialects might be a little bit hard in Texas.
Yeah. There were several times when he was here at the house that he would say something, and both my wife and I are staring at him for a minute, going, "What?" He's trying to repeat it.
That was the strangest thing. I was just standing there. Someone was like, "Oh yeah, there's a Brit here," and then I just heard him behind me somewhere. I was like, "Oh, fuck off! What?" But that was excellent. Rachel Tobias also. She walked up to us when we were sitting with Scott Horn and was like, "Hey," she was talking about her whole source, who she was, introducing herself and stuff. I was like, "You guys want to hear some stand up? Just casually as it came."
Yeah, I think she does that, like, I don't know professionally, but she has like a routine and stuff that she does. I'd love to like give people the opportunity to have like a small stage or something at the campsite so they can get up and just share their talents with people.
That would be cool. Is that something you're like the permits and having the whole campsite to ourselves? Is that something
yes.
we could do?
Yeah, I think so. They're still telling me what I'm allowed to do and what I'm not allowed to do, but I think that's something that even if they tell me I'm not allowed to do it, I'll probably do it anyways because who's going to know?
Yeah, like, you're really not going to offend too many people's feelings. Like, oh, we just started doing this. We just had a few people with a guitar and a mic.
Yeah, exactly.
But there was also someone who expressed interest to me about performing after they saw the lineup was Evergreen Spriggs. You ever heard of them?
No.
So they do very, very liberty-oriented kind of outlaw country. And
that's cool.
They got one album out. I interviewed him for my solo show, but I think he's kind of... I'm not sure if he's in Texas or if he's nearby, but he's definitely driving distance to Chillderburg. So
he's in one of the nearby
I'll
states.
reach out.
He's in what?
I think he's in one of the nearby states. I don't think he's in Texas itself.
Yeah, it's him and his, like, he sings and writes and plays the guitar, and he has someone else, I forget, but they're a duo, and I think he can do his stuff on his own or with the guy. But yeah, I'll have to put you guys in touch if you're open to opening up the entertainment.
Yeah, definitely. And I just Googled it, and the very first thing that comes up is an album titled "We Will Not Comply."
There you go.
So I think that would be a good fit.
Yes. He's a really, really cool guy. Same vibe as everyone that was there. Totally chill. Absolutely, about this message. So it'll be cool to see this thing just expand and bring in more and more of those people. And that's what we've been seeing in the days after this. I mean, hashtag Chillderburg. I was seeing so much stuff with that.
Oh yeah.
Like it was a festival, like a big festival or something.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully we'll get bigger. I mean, I think people will just enjoy it. At a certain point, I mean, it's not like it's already kind of not in my control anymore. It's just its own thing. It's its own thing now, and I'm more than happy to just let it go where it's going to go.
I mean, that's the beautiful thing about this community, right? No one has to grip onto it and be like, "This is mine." It's like, nope, we're doing this.
yeah, you just again, it's sort of that thing is you just get the ball rolling and people will roll it for you, or they'll roll it in the direction they want, and that's awesome.
Yeah, year 4 being a German theme has me a little bit concerned, but we'll see. I have faith. I have faith, guys. I mean, if Aaron from Timeline Earth turns up, who knows what's gonna happen? But
oh yeah, apparently he's going to be at Porkfest this year.
Yeah, I was like, oh man, you just gotta see a headline. There's a headline in that somewhere. I don't want to assume what it could be, but
yeah.
I mean, I'm gonna be up that way, living up that way next year. I'll just kidnap him on my way down.
bring him to the real Liberty event.
Yes,
I like it. Oh God! Anything we want to finish up on? SOR, you wanna share you and Sassy's night at the Iron Wolf Distillery?
God.
well, actually, wait. I'll lead us in. You guys approached me and Typo. We were having a fucking good time. Very good vibe. Good level of drunkenness. Yeah, and SOR and Sassy approach us and are like, hey guys, want to go do some shots with us? Before looking absolutely trashed, enjoying yourselves too, and supporting the local business, which is cool.
I'm gonna be honest, I don't remember the first half of that freaking comedy show.
Yeah, you weren't the guy I was sitting next to. He wasn't heckling. He thought it was audience participation, which Robbie clamped down on.
God, that guy, yeah.
I was like, oh fuck, because I was sitting next to SOR and these guys were, like I said, not heckling, joining in enthusiastically, and Robbie was replying to him. I was like, I am not with them. Please don't turn on me. As
soon as Robbie was like, come up here, fill in this space, I was like, ooh, big mistake with this crowd. But like, and as soon as I saw Mr. Sue go up, I was like, yeah, this is gonna turn because Mr. Sue is awesome. He's a cool dude, but he's also, like all the libertarians, sometimes not just particularly socially aware, doesn't catch on to everything right away. And I was like, yeah, he's gonna say something, and it's gonna turn into a thing.
Yeah. That was a hell of an evening, and no hiccups. Some funny moments, obviously.
I mean, the hiccups started back at the campsite. So.
Yeah. The hiccups started at probably, I want to be conservative and say 11 a.m., but the hiccups may have started earlier than that. People like stepping outside of their tent and lighting one up. I was like, okay, yeah, it's gonna be one of those kind of weekends. What I think it was Bird on their show or on Timeline Earth. They just said one thing that wasn't hard to be at Chillderburg was high.
Yeah, that's true. That's for sure true.
If someone was to walk by without much information, they might have assumed it was a big Republicans who like weed gathering, and you know,
close enough.
yeah, whatever, man.
So they got one part of it right.
The last part is true. Sassy, do you remember Saturday night at all?
I just don't remember most of the show, but other than that, I do have recollection.
Do you remember standing by SOR's truck?
I don't remember peeing on it, but
we were the three of us there's still enough light left, a little bit of light left. Myself, SOR, and Sassy were standing there having conversation. Pretty, we'd enjoyed ourselves by this point in the evening. And I thought Sassy was just pouring his drink out.
I thought my truck was leaking something.
He's like, are you pissing on my truck? What? Continued trickling sound. Dude! Yeah? And I think I'd gone back to the campsite and come back a little later. And I'd approached the campsite quietly. I knew you guys were a little bit worse for wear by that point. I just hear you guys getting settled in for the night. Dude, are you gonna throw up? Nah. What do you say to you?
I don't even remember. He's like, made sure, like, okay, are you going to be good for tonight? He's like, yeah, I'm good. And then, like, I get into my sleeping bag, and I'm, like, just about falling asleep. And I hear a bunch of rustling on the other side of the tent, and him trying to struggle with the zipper, not able to figure it out in his drunken state. So I get up and I open it for him, and, like, my tent has, like, 2 rooms. There's, like, a screen room on the outside, so, like, if it's raining or buggy and shit, you can sit in it. And there's no floor in that section of the tent, but I didn't want him puking in there. And I'm just like, make sure you go outside. And I think he ended up just poking his head under the fucking flap.
That's exactly what I did.
Puking everywhere. It sounded like a movie style Austin Powers overemphasis puking. Just, oh my God. And I just made him sleep out there.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't even let him back in the tent. Like, he slept on the ground, and, like, I threw his sleeping bag to him, and, like, fuck you, man.
Chillderburg, building community.
Right.
Memories.
Well, I just had the perfect time because I'd come back. I think the guys were talking about recording their podcast that night. I'm not sure if it happened because everyone just kind of got a little bit feral and was really enjoying the festivities about 12 a.m. or whatever. But so I'd wandered back. I did not have the energy for that, and I was just laying down. I didn't want to. You know, I'm sorry, but I didn't want to offer a hand. I heard the struggling, and then the struggle for the zipper, and then just I was like, all right, SOR's probably got that handled.
You guys have.
Well, there's
have
always
seen,
what?
You guys have all seen Family Guy, right? The Epitaph episode.
Oh no.
That's what it sounded like. I don't know if you want to clip that in BR, but that's exactly what that sounded like.
That it was cartoonish. I thought one of you was making fun of the other, and I was like, oh no, he is really going for it. He is purging the system ready for tomorrow, and bravo, you know.
I don't remember much of this.
I was like, oh fuck, dude.
I just remember waking up and then realizing I puked on his tent. And then I do not remember pissing on his truck at all. I might have just been pissing on myself.
Mind you, this is the first time I've ever met Sassy.
Yeah, this was like a couple hours after we posted.
Yeah, like what was it? Maybe I mean we've all talked for years on Instagram, but it was like 6 hours into knowing each other, 8 hours. You're pissing on the man's truck and throwing up on his tent. And that's an IRL friendship, people.
Yeah, that's how.
Hey,
and now you got a legend.
Say what you will.
Yeah.
I always left my mark on his
social
tent.
media friends.
Yeah, you got to get in proximity with these people so you can show your love.
Yeah, maybe some social media friends you don't want to meet in real life.
Yeah, I'm starting to realize that now.
It's a little late.
Hey man, just dry clean it. Yeah, it'll be right.
You can't dry clean a tent.
You can try.
I'm bringing my own tent next year.
There you go. Next year, I am dragging down. I'm gonna try and drag down Mel. I'm gonna try and drag down Resi, and Rebs, my co-host for the eMilitia, and I would like to establish amongst followers of the podcast. I want an encampment. Not that it's gonna be a closed, walled off space. This is just where we will reside. I want Little Amsterdam, our own red light district at Chillderburg.
Okay. I think that also we're working on this for Chillderburg Veer is to try to facilitate the ability for people to record live podcasts a little bit better.
Yes. That's what someone was talking about, like having an official, like a nice setup, and then just do it, like booking it throughout the day. I was like, that's
I think
awesome.
that's what we're gonna do because there's so many podcasters there, and it's fun, and that's also entertaining just to watch people do podcasts. And so I think that that would be a fun thing. I think Bird's gonna actually try to do the organization for that this year, or for 4.
Yeah, well, I'm sure plenty of the podcasts would be happy to get in touch with him and help out if they can, because that's what this whole event's for. It's like, hey, can I lend a hand? If so,
Yeah.
I'll do what I can. But
Yeah.
that's a badass idea, because that was a lot of fun. It was this turning something that's, for most of us, a pretty solitary thing. You're sitting at work, listening to a podcast, driving, whatever it might be, and to be seeing these guys, shoot the shit live. It was such good energy, especially Tommy Salmon's coming on with his Slurp Gang at 1 a.m. or whatever it might have been.
Oh yeah.
And Anthony Samarov getting all sorts of people just spontaneously popping into each other's shows. Live energy was something I never thought we'd see in this community, but wow.
Yeah, it was cool. It was cool. All right, I got to hop off here in a minute. You guys want to wrap up?
Yeah, absolutely, man. So people who are complete newbies, didn't come to 1, 2, or 3, but want to come next year, what should they be doing?
Just go to chillderburg.com and sign up for the newsletter. That'll be a good way to do it. We're gonna get for all of you Instagram people, we'll get an Instagram going and get somebody to either teach me how to do it or run it for me.
Love it.
And we're a little bit more active on Facebook than we used to be. Mason's running that now, just because I don't want to be on Facebook really. And so there's going to be information up there, but probably the biggest place, because I run it and I post on there a lot, is at Chillderburg on Twitter. And but if you are not a Twitter person, then go on to chillderburg.com and sign up for the newsletter.
Love it. Awesome. SOI, you want to quickly give your plugs? We'll just run through everyone.
Yeah. So y'all can find me Instagram SOR_1776 or Twitter SOR1776, and then my website spiritofresistance.com.
And he does the merch for both myself, Biting the Bullet, Typo, and a bunch of other people.
Rebellious, Liberty, Tactical Buffalo, Centennial High Points. Yeah.
Cool stuff. Typo?
Yeah, you can just follow the podcast page, Biting the Bullet Podcast on Instagram. And then you can go bitingthebulletpod.com if you want to go to our website. And that'll give you all of our links and shit to our social media.
Luke's not making you plug the Facebook anymore?
No, our Facebook's gone, bro. Yeah, I got banned. They did not like Kyle Rittenhouse memes.
Gotta love it.
Ooh, we're coming up on the 1 year of that, aren't we?
Oh Lord, not at the end of this show. Another time. Sassy?
I'm only allowed on Twitter now, so I was kind of fucked up when I made my Twitter, so it's at Raiders Sassies.
that'll be easy to find.
Yeah. If not, ask for help.
There you go. All right. Thank you all for coming on. Thank you, Jacob, for making this event. It's onwards and upwards. I mean, I'm excited to see where this thing goes and to see where Chillderburg Town goes.
Yeah, man. I think that's going to be great. And thank you for having me on. I'll talk to you guys online, and probably I'll talk to some of you guys on the Intentional Community Roundtable.
Absolutely. All right. Thanks, everyone, for listening, and we'll see you next time.